I'm Sol Sanderson from the Chickasaw Patient Band of the Cree Nation that signed Treaty 6 at Fort Carlton in 1876. And I have spent 65 years in Indian politics. I started when I was 15 years old. And it's been a long journey, but things have changed in a major way, but not necessarily the way that we should be making the changes. So what I'll be doing is identifying what I call the code of silence that many people are not aware of, both Indian and non-Indian. And I'll be laying out what I identify as a political agenda. Most of our leaders today at every level, the community, FSIN level, tribal council level here in Saskatchewan and nationally, at AFN, spend 85% of their time on administrative agendas and only 15% of the time on the political agenda. So that has to change if we're going to make any major changes that have to be implemented in 2022 and for the future. But there has to be an understanding of the settlers' policies and issues historically, and our policies and issues historically. Without that level of understanding that you need, you'll be making plans for the future that create barriers. That's not why you're elected leaders, and that's why you're peoples of our nations that are bands and communities of your respective nations. And if you don't know that history, you'll create barriers for the next generation. So your task is to develop plans and strategies that you can build on from generation to generation. And that's what I've tried to do all my life. And I was told that by one elder at about age 16. And the other thing I was told by another elder is, you're very impatient. He said, let me tell you, 100 years of political change is like 1 year in your lifetime. Now, I have spent 65 years in Indian politics, and I understand those statements that were made to me many, many years ago. So keep that in mind in the work that you're doing, because you can get frustrated very easy if you don't know that history. And if you don't know where the future is going, that will frustrate you. But I'll review the code of silence with you. And the format I'm going to use is reviewing the inherent rights by sector, the inherent sovereignty of our nations, the inherent rights and title to our lands, resources, water, and jurisdictions for airspace. And I'll identify what we need to do in order to implement them and give them legal effect, or enforcement by community, by region, by district councils, by FSIN, AFN, and other nations right across the country. But we don't go there. So when we look at the process of implementation of the inherent rights, I will identify what we have to do to organize ourselves collectively. Because what I'm going to be talking about in these videos, it impacts on every individual and members collectively and families collectively by community or by band. But it certainly affects and clearly affects every chief and council of the governments of our nations at every level. So the community level, the tribal council levels, the regional organizations that should be implementing their Confederacy of Nations, like the FSIN has a convention organizing the Federation of Nations here in Saskatchewan that crosses the boundaries of provincial, federal boundaries. So when we look at the process that I'm talking about, it'll impact on everyone in the same way. So why aren't we dealing with the issues that I'm talking about and going to be identifying? They're collective responsibilities, and they're not issues that can be swept under the rug. They're very much alive, and they have to be implemented and enforced collectively.